If you've been trying to make the transition from classical pianist to fretboard master, this video is going to feel like it was literally handcrafted for you. And all it is a lesson with one of my students, DeSante, who's coming from classical piano and he's understanding fretboard mastery. Now, what we cover in this lesson is that level 1 practice mentality. We're talking about triads across the full range of the guitar and how to start playing simple progressions with those 5-to-1 progressions, the most ubiquitous chord progression of them all. In this lesson, we get into every which way you could play a 5-to-1 using triads. Comprehensive, restricting ourselves to the triads. Now, Jason, with his perspective coming from piano, had a tendency to overlook the triads because they're very easy on piano. They're almost too easy. And this is a trap I see all the time because I've worked with so many different instrumentalists. They overlook the power of the triads because on certain instruments, they're a little too easy and they're also too simple. Oh, you want to be spicy. You want to play more complex harmony. But really, you're always just overlooking that triadic fundamental. And so in this lesson, we're going to lay that fundamental out as clear as it's ever been laid out for anyone in all of history. And we're going to be referring to my Intro to Fretboard Mastery course because Jason just recently completed the first part of that course. And then he entered my program to apply those skills and compound them at higher levels. So this lesson is just a wealth of insight on how to develop true fretboard mastery that is based on the first principles of music. As we know, voice leading is the first principle. It is rule number 1. And as we discuss, 5-1 progressions, of course, we deal with all the voice leading implications of that. So this is a monster piece of a lesson. You're really going to enjoy it. I wanted to share it. I just feel like I couldn't sit on it myself. Jason's an absolute legend, and his perspective is so valuable because I feel like he articulated what a lot of people have expressed to me as being challenges of developing improvisational mastery. So enjoy this lesson. If you want to get the full benefit of it, definitely just get that Intro to Fretboard Mastery course. That's free, first link in the description. Light years ahead of most people's paid courses. So definitely take advantage of that 30-minute video course, change your life in an afternoon. All right, without further ado, let's get in this lesson with Jason.
Okay, so just playing the triads, going 1-3-5, 1-3-5. You can do that on the piano really, really easy. Like, this is what I realized is like, because I played the piano first, right?
Yep.
I started on piano first. So if you do the triads on the piano, it's like so ridiculously easy. You don't think about it. You don't think it's interesting. You don't think it's anything that is anything. You don't think it's worth doing because it's so easy, right? You get what I'm saying? But on the guitar, because I came from piano, I go, that's so easy. I don't even want to try doing it. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, 1,000%.
But you have to. The phrases that you do on the piano, phrases you do on the guitar are like based on the way the instrument is.
Right.
So why would I lean into this piano stuff on the guitar, right? I should lean into the guitar strengths. You know what I mean? But then it ends up just creating a giant blind spot.
Yep. So very, very interesting point, right? So this idea of guitar language, right? Like, oh, I should learn the guitar language playing the guitar. That is huge truth to that, huge levels of truth, like a whole mastery mentality within that. But that mastery mentality is only actualized by first mastering the triads on the guitar, because the triads are the underlying first principle. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to understand the guitar through that underlying triadic first principle.
Exactly. And doing it in different ways. Like not just like to also to know that, like, just because something is easy to do on the piano doesn't mean it's not musically interesting or whatever. Just like how, like, when you're playing guitar and you learn like Wild Thing or some shit, like you go bang bang dang dang, like that's cool. Doing it on the piano, if you teach somebody on the piano, you're like, oh yeah, you have to move all your fingers. And you got to move all your fingers again. And then the person on the piano is like, this is way too hard. But on the guitar, you're just like, yo, just move your hand up.
Yeah.
You don't need to you don't need to change your shapes at all. You just need to move your hand up and down. And you know exactly what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, guitar language. It's optimized for the guitar so you can play it with more like rhythmic groove and tension, right? The whole language, the underlying language is supporting rhythm. So like guitar support rhythms are different than piano ones. And the ones that are optimized, think about like optimization, ergonomics, all this stuff. This ultimately facilitates the effortless flow of rhythm. And that's where your gold is. So if you can connect those dots, your triads to your fundamental rhythm.
Exactly. And the flip of that is like the stuff that's really easy on guitar, like, you know, playing Wild Thing,
Yep.
like a 1-4-5. On the piano, once you can do a 1-4-5 on the piano, you're like, wow, I'm so cool. I played a root C, and then I played a second inversion F. Wow, I'm so interesting. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like really easy. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, these ideas on piano that are easy are like inversions are easy on piano, but they're hard on guitar.
Yep. Well, here's what I bring in though, is they're not necessarily harder on the guitar. You just have to spend a deeper minute figuring them out and normalizing them. That's all, right? So like, you know,
exactly.
Like for whatever reason, and this is fundamental, whatever reason, people always think about root position triad. For example, on like a G major, everyone's like, oh, a G major triad is this or this. Most people might think of it that way, but people rarely consider, well, it's this. And that's all the G major triad. And then now you have your choice. You have some choices for like what's going to be that optimization, right? And that's now where your language blows up, because the things that are optimized, that's the language that you're going for, because the optimization supports the rhythm, and the rhythm is where all the gold is, right? So if I have this like range optimized pathway, meaning like I can effortlessly play it rhythmically, then now I can facilitate some groove, and my musicianship can show up to the parties, like
exactly.
Like just making music with one static triad, because I'm thinking about, well, what subdivisions can I play to facilitate groove? And all of the subdivisions are accessible to me because I've got, you know, like I just showed all those pathways, right? Like first triad lesson, and then like all the rest of it. Right? That's like, oh, now I know what's possible with just those 3-note structures. And then it instantly becomes clear that like, dang, like I'm going to have to spend a minute here. And then how am I actually going to get that into the context of making music? And now you correct me if I'm wrong, right? That's where the 5 chord shows up, right? Just like, oh, I'm just going to now learn the triad that's on the chord that's the 5 away. And why did I choose that in the chorus? Obviously because, you know, right? Most ubiquitous progression of all time, right? 1-5-1, like fundamental, might as well master 1-5-1. And I say to the students all the time, obviously, that you can just focus on isolating 5-1s and getting ballistic.
Just cadences. Just do cadences.
Yep. And don't even think about anything else till you're like, till you literally feel like you understand every single detail of that, because it's not that many details, right? 5 to the 1, so it's playing in G, 5. But I'm like improvising. Wow, made a mistake. Good. But yeah, the cadence, dude. It's all about the cadence. And so it's like, which freaking pathways am I using? You know, I'm assuming you've gone through the 3 fingerings, right? And so it's kind of making sense. I'm just mapping out that pathway there. And then I'm asking myself, okay, how does that connect to the G? Well, D is a common tone, so the next note could just be the B right there in the G. So there's like a little pathway that's like rhythmic, so like...
That's where my knowledge cutoff is like key changes.
yeah, that's why we're doing this. Exactly.
I know that much about harmony, where it's like if you're in a minor, like you don't do a minor 5. So when you're playing a minor, the 5's actually major. The 5's not minor.
So every 5 chord is always major. There's no such thing as a minor 5 chord. It's like it's just like not a thing. It could be, but if you did, it's because you're consciously breaking the rule. But like
it'd be like if you're trying to be exactly the exact notes,
exactly diatonic,
exactly, and that's where it's like piano player brain meets harmony, like starts to learn about harmony, then you're like, oh yeah, this shit's weird. Yeah,
No,
but
dude,
yeah,
you got it.
that's where my knowledge is at. I'm like, I
Beautiful.
got to grade 8 piano, and that's it.
Got it, dude. No, that's awesome. No, I need to understand this. Okay, yeah. So like a huge thing to consider here. There's home and there's away from home.
Yeah.
Right? That's the real truth. And so away from home is a lot of different things, but the 5 chord is the penultimate. And so the 5 chord is the signal that you're going to return home, because after the 5 chord, you're going back to the 1 chord. Now, when you go back to the 1 chord, it can be major or minor. It doesn't make a difference. But in all cases, the 5 chord is major when it's a cadence, right? The old school first principle cadence, right? Now, if you want to break that rule, well, break it with the knowledge of what the actual rule is which is what we're laying out. And now we're understanding why fretboard mastery is set up this way, because the most ubiquitous change, like the penultimate change, is always 5-1. In that alone is all of the voice leading fundamentals that you need. You can learn like first principles of voice leading by just getting 5-1s. And I think that's something that could be misunderstood about my method, is that people wonder why I'm talking about less chords than more chords. And the simple answer is because everything you need to understand is understood by first mastering 5-1. It's that simple. If you master 5-1, then you automatically apply that logic to all the other progressions you would do. They won't have the same ubiquity of the 5-1, right? The 5-1 is like completion, right? Like cycle ender, cycle starter. Other progressions don't imply the same level of gravity, but the rules of voice leading that are found in 5-1 are equally applied in all the same logic with no caveats to all other chord progressions. So then it's like you think about now 2-5-1s and stuff like that, right? Obviously. But then it gets like, well, what about flat 6-5-1s? What about 1 up a minor third to the dominant chord and then up a fourth to a new 1 chord? It's just like, it's endless. But all of the same voice leading principles apply in all of those possible situations. So that's a huge, like, flip of the switch. If somebody can just realize, you're telling me that if I just master 5-1 voice leading like this, like let's pause on some 5-1 voice leading. Let's talk about this, right? Before we even get into chromatic pivoting, let's pause on some 5-1 voice leading. Just be like, what do I mean? Okay, well, let's do like some like in position vertical voice leading. Vertical, look, vertical. Vertical. Because horizontal, but vertical, stay vertical. So how do I go from a 5-1 from this vertical? Classic, right? You know what I'm about to say, but I gotta say it. Well, G goes to F sharp, right? D stays the same. B goes to A. And now this shape becomes a first inversion D. And now I have something to work with. And already I could make music, right? So maybe I go 3, 4. Right? You know exactly where it's at with that, right? So first principle of voice leading right there. And this is where your mind gets blown out at the pyramids. That is technically the whole crux of the operation. If you understand the implications of what I just did right there, you just now need to do your research with full range pathways, look at all the different variation potentials. But that logic, that's the rule number 1 of music, right? Okay, so let's do some more variations on 5-1 just to see how it compounds. So now we go out of position, right? Go out of position using horizontal, right? Take the horizontal approach. And let's look at some voice leading opportunities there. So from 1, look at this. I got this like first inversion on the horizontal because I see root position G, fingering 2. And then within that, look at this, like first inversion little stopping point. A path within a path kind of thing to smaller, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to go the whole freaking range every time. But classically, this is a very nice, effortless part of any major or minor arpeggio grip. So just getting like... right? Just like simple, right? So I'm thinking first inversion because I'm not going all the way down to the G, but I could. It's right freaking there. But I can just think about like a first inversion 2-note per string, where the first string is a 1-note per string, and then 2-note per string, 2-note per string, 2-note per string. Iconically effortless and classic. So let's think about like just getting some rhythmic rudiments going there. You know what's up, right?
Yeah, so you're saying like here, 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 here.
Okay, so you just did fingering 1.
That's another thing I was thinking about is the fingering 1, 2, 3.
Here's where it matters. And we can cut straight to the chase of it all, right? Fingering 2 is the most ergonomically optimized.
Oh, 2 is the one with the little string skip.
Yes.
Here, 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 here.
Genius, dude.
Right?
Yes. Fingering 1 is just the full range optimization. Fingering 1 is, oh, I literally have the full range.
Yeah, it uses the whole neck.
There you go. So now what I'm looking to do is some voice leading with 5-1, right? And I'm doing fingering 2 on this G. And I'm playing within that grip. So now I would just normalize that for a quick second. I would just go like 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, cool. I've got it. I can play some rhythms and it's like easy, right? Now I'm going to do the same thing on the 5 chord, which is going to be a second inversion. B goes to A. Fingering 3, dude.
That shape 3 is the one I haven't.
Yeah, don't even worry
I haven't
about it.
remembered
so the characteristic.
The intervals are always going back.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
it's like
it's the traditional. It's
Yeah,
traditional.
it's like
the caged. It's like the C.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like
Like
the traditional, as the classic.
Yeah, because the classical guys think about that. And a lot of like it's from Tim Miller. Tim Miller is like aggressive in the 2-1-2 combination situation, and you'll see what's characteristic about fingering 3 is how it's got these 2-1-2 things. So that requires a certain way of picking, but it's definitely, after the research has been done and you figure it out, it's definitely really good. So look at this. Look at this combo of a fingering 2 on the 1 chord to a fingering 3 on the 5 chord. This is a classic combo. Now I get chromatic. See all that? And I was doing different combination sequencing, but I see where the chromatic showed up. I was begging. It's begging it, right? Second inversion where A on D to first inversion on G. That's chromatic. You got to beg for that. That's how you start to get psycho. That's when you blow things up, is you see the chromatic when it's begging for it. Only when it's begging for it. Like, don't do it unless it's really asking. And I think that's the right approach with using things beyond the triad in general. Like, just get really good at triads. They will reveal all the alternate side steps, right? And that's totally why Intro to Fretboard Mastery is strictly restricted to the triadic mastery, even though it talks about melodic minor and that little secret spot as the foreshadow, and it talks about the chords in the end, like the very beginning of Fat Shapes, but none of that is really like in depth explained. Obviously, it's way more focused on like, if you can just get 5-1 triadic voice leading with range optimized triads and put that all together in your mind, and you know, be able to do like little things like
nice.
You know what I mean? Like finding different. I did a 9th there. We talk about that in Fretboard Mastery intro as well, is when we bring in the 2nd degree or the 9th degree, full circling back to Bach in G major, right? Look at this. 1, 5, 2, 3. That's the Bach cello suite lick. I'm trying to serve the purpose of just playing the most straightforward harmony there is, right? The 2 is very straightforward. Is the 7th as straightforward? Up to you. I couldn't say. Watches. That's my problem with the 7th. My problem with the 7th is that it implies the 5 chord. That's my problem with it.
Yeah, like because you're talking about like playing melodies,
Yep.
and like when you're playing melodies, the seventh is less cool. Like when you're playing chords, the seventh is probably more cool than
You
like
have exactly said
right.
the exact truth that is in the lesson. That is the lesson of fat shapes and the fully extended chords.
Was
That is
that
the exact, you said it to a T, exactly correct.
is that sevenths are cool in chords, but ninths are cooler in melodies?
Yes. 7, 11, 13, right? 7, 11, 13.
Yo, think about it though. Major pentatonic, fun. It's pretty like major and minor pentatonic are both fun, but only one of them's got the two, and you know what I mean.
And this is
Yeah,
where like the subjectivity shows up. Like you can actually decide for yourself what you think it is. But
yeah,
I would say that a really good base level is to just master voice leading with triad +1. My problem with the seventh just being that it quickly takes away from like the strength of that one chord, and it implies the 5 chord. It just
yeah,
implies something other than the strength of the one chord that can mess with your ear perception. Versus the 2, it doesn't. Like the 2 doesn't imply the 5 chord in the same way that the seventh does, even though the 2 is in the 5 chord, right? In a G major, that
yeah.
2, that's the fifth of the 5 chord, but like it doesn't take away, like I still hear it against G.
I
Oh,
just gotta get all
yeah,
into my system so I could like that's what I was like, worried about. I'm like, I don't want to show up here and just be a moron.
definitely keep going with the 5-1 practice, right? That's the biggest takeaway of them all. Is just work on the 5-1 practice. Screw the ninth, screw the seventh. Don't like that's what I'm saying. Like we don't need any of that. In intro to fretboard mastery, you literally just want to master 5-1s and then do some key changing. And then with chromatic pivoting, you can do some key changing. But you don't even friggin' have to. Like, what's more important is just the 5-1s. And just remember that whole process of the 5-1 practice is like, okay, I've got a 1 chord pathway, right?
Yeah.
And now I've got a 5 chord pathway. And I'm just playing like little variations for fun. Obviously, in your practice, you might be like, okay, wait. You know what I mean? But like, you know what I'm saying? But then like start to be like this. Start to literally be like, like different like pattern combinations on a single isolated pathway, classic levels, right? And then of course, inevitably, it's about the connection. So you have that 5 like.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Oh,
what
I did
I'm
that
thinking
chromatic
about now.
approach.
Exactly. It's all about just how do you visualize both things at the same time.
So you
That's
can traverse them. So you can switch
yeah.
you can flip right over it. Like the Holdsworthy and script flipter.
Yeah, and
The
that's what I'm bad
Holdsworthian.
at now. Like that's what I can't do is the visualizing the two at the same time.
Of
You know what I mean?
course.
But like what you're like when you'll be playing something and then you'll change your chord, but you'll do a skip at the same time, and my stupid brain is always like I'm like I have to like look that you know what I mean? Like you're looking ahead of time, but it's
Oh,
like
dude. No,
but you
you're
can't look ahead of time. You have to know ahead of time.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
You don't have time to think. That's it. Dude, that's why the
exactly.
pathway mentality is so good to frame it that way, because you don't have time to make up the pathway. You have
Yeah,
to already have seen it because you practice it a lot. And then you practice transitioning,
exactly.
which that's where I know what you're saying, man. That's what's
If
difficult
I
for
could go like ba
everybody.
ba 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 ba, do whatever, right? I
Yeah.
could in this one shape,
Yeah.
but if I want to go and then and play a note in a different shape,
Mm-hmm.
my brain goes. "Ugh."
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh. Of course.
I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where your brain just goes like, wait a second,
Yeah.
just pause time for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Just let me wrap
Yeah. Yeah. Pause time
right.
for 5 seconds. You don't have time to pause time for 5 seconds, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's basically what it is, right? Your brain's just like, just
yeah. And then
stop
start again.
time.
Yeah.
Just let me figure out where the fucking note is.
And that's why exactly like when you do, right, when you do figure out where the notes are, then you just stay in one, right? Because that's what,
Exactly.
and I'm actually advising that's not a bad thing to do. Like you can stay in one of these, but you just consciously know you're moving on soon, right? But for practice, you can stay in this first inversion pathway within a pathway. You can stay there, right?
Yeah.
But then once it's okay, I got it though. Like now I can go like. Now I know it. Now it's like, okay, put the responsibility. Now you have to switch it up. What's the other one? Okay, do the same thing. Learn it. Okay, got it? Oh, what about the extended range if I need it? Okay, I got it. Now I combine. Now I just make music on the combination, practicing just the transition.
That's where becoming aware of the pivots, whether or not you call it a pivot or not, whatever.
A pivot, a chord
that's
change.
Where that is the thing is. That's where that is important. Is
exactly.
I guess it's kind of like everything's repeating. So the way you'd pivot down here is the same way you'd pivot up here.
1,000%, dude. You start to see the repeating.
So you just got to know that. You just got to know exactly the couple pivot change it, couple pivot combinations.
Yep. And that's the research, right? So I just did that research. I'm like seeing, okay, so I got this fingering 3 on the D, and I can see where it connects to the G. Right? So the D is connecting the G like the 5th of the D can go to the 3rd of the G. So I researched that. So I'm like, now if I play this like, okay, connected.
Yeah.
Combos.
Nice.
And I was just combining different sequences within grips. And the very last thing I did, of course, just to finish myself off, I just started doing in position ones, right?
Yeah.
So now, just to make that classically final point, is once you have one single pathway connector, right? So my one single was like, okay, first inversion fingering 2 on the G, to second inversion fingering 3 on the D, right? And then adding an open triad. So I'd add a root position open triad right here, because it's right where I am. That's just right there. So I got all this, and I've got this. It's just a contrast. It's a different visual. It's a different visual cue, and it's a contrast. So look at it in musical context. Just using the open grips to contrast the closed full range grips, and now you see the power of restricting yourself to triads. You have a lot to work with right there, a lot. And so you got to do that research.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It's fun as hell.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I really like the way that like you frame that, because you unlock like a little part of my piano player brain to the guitar player brain was like, hey, we've been sitting here the whole time. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, right? It's like there's
1,000.
Like the one note is not in the 5 chord.
100,000, nailed it.
But the one note can go up to the 2 or down to the 7.
Now you're turning into a genius.
For every step, you got to know, like, if you're on the 1, you got to know which
either side
you can go to, and then when you're on the 3, you got to know that you can go to the 2.
Yep.
But you can't go to the 4 because that's the 7 of the 5. Well,
yeah, because we're restricting ourselves.
You could go to the 4 if you want to, but we're doing triads.
Yeah, with our practice restrictions, we're not going to the 4th.
Exactly. And then if you're playing the 5th in the 1, like the 5th is the
5th
of the 1 is the 1 of the 5, so you don't change. And then then for the 5th is same shit. You know, the 3rd of the 5th is the 7th. The 5th of the 5th is the 2.
Couldn't be more beautifully understood. And notice you've now wrapped your mind around every combination. Where it gets compounded, of course, is now you would apply that to the actual fretboard grips that we have, which
exactly. Yeah. So the thing I just said is that's the thing I need to practice to actually not be dumb. Like, because right now I'm like, I'm dumb. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm in the.
No, you've become self-conscious, dude. It's like, dude, you just got ripped out of the matrix. Why do my eyes hurt? Because I've never used them before, dude. Like,
exactly. That's exactly it. It's like that, because before you're it's like, what's a good next thing to do to get better? And then it's like, try this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the whole path of mastery is actually revealed, like I said in the beginning, is revealed by just seeing that first level of like, holy I literally understand every single combination right now. What's going to happen when I just add 1 degree? I'll understand all those. Then add 2 degrees. I'll understand all those. And now I understand everything, and I hear it with respect to the triadic fundamental and the actual harmonic motion.
That's another tough thing is like
hearing harmonic motion.
Yep. But like ear training in a way that like isn't just going around in circles. I don't know how to explain.
No, but like you have to have the goal. Okay, so like For
Yeah,
ear
exactly.
training, the goal needs to be that you're hearing harmonic movements. And then what starts to happen when you first hear like the 5-1, you're like, okay, I totally hear that. Now, you'll actually recognize other movements when you go and like listen to music. Like, and you'll recognize them like this. You'll be like, that's not a 5-1. And that's the first thing to understand, right? So when you understand just the 5-1, like I said, I keep saying it, the floodgates of mastery have now been open to you because now your ears are actually attuned to harmonic movements and more fundamentally voice leading. And so you'll recognize, okay, there's that one. And then you learn like, you know, a 2-5-1. You're like, okay, now there's that one. Then you learn like flat 6-5-1. Oh, now there's that one. And that's why I go with the Coltrane stuff, because it's not that hard to recognize up a minor third dominant chord when you already hear all those like more fundamental ones, right? Just hearing 5-1 busts you up, right?
Yeah.
Hearing 1-6-2-5, you're dead, right? Like, I mean, you're enlightened, you know what I mean? Like, you just finally hear it. And the reason you never heard it before, why most people struggle to hear it, is because they're not playing it with triads. They're playing it with all this other shit, and they're like, why isn't anything making sense? The simple answer is because you're not seeing it from the triadic fundamental. You're not hearing it from the triadic fundamental. Very good lesson. You know, 1,000,000,000% crystal clear exactly what you need to practice.
Yes.
Then we're cooked. So now you get it. You see what's up here. So you want to get involved with this program. We are offering the intro month discount, which is a one-time payment. So you can test out the methodology before committing to the monthly subscription. Link in the description for that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. And anybody who made it to this point in the video, comment what kinds of videos you want me to make going forward. Never have enough video ideas, so you guys might as well take advantage of it. I'll probably make whatever videos you suggest. This is my full-time job. Got nothing but time and talking about music and showing people how it works and what's really going on. So, see you guys.